Welcome to Project Communications. This is a course as part of the Graduate Certificate in Project Management that's offered by the University of Northern British Columbia. And this is a 3-day module, which the overall goal is to look at how to engage and communicate with stakeholders in meaningful ways. The biggest insight I've had around engaging and communicating with stakeholders is the old Sufi parable about the blind man and the elephant, which basically says that somebody approaches the elephant's side and thinks it's a wall, and somebody's got a hold of the tail, thinks it's a rope, and they're all wrong because they can't see the whole picture. And I think that's our role as project managers, is to help people see the big picture. We're going to start the course looking at emotional intelligence, which for me is the most fundamental thing about communicating with stakeholders. If we don't have a grasp of how we actually interact with people and are able to read situations, no amount of tools are going to help us. The biggest insight from emotional intelligence for me is the difference between intent and impact. We judge ourselves by our intent, and others judge us by the impact we have, and therein is the awareness gap. Good emotional intelligence helps us bring those two closer together. Social intelligence helps us make sense of situations. So in this particular cartoon, if I'm the project manager and thinking squares and everybody else is thinking something different, if I don't align somehow and I don't figure out how they're thinking, I am not going to be able to engage them. And that's at the heart of social intelligence. One of the tools that we'll look at in this section on emotional intelligence is the idea that in every conversation that is a difficult conversation, there are three going on. One is fact, one is the emotions behind it, and the other is our identities. And I think really sophisticated leaders are able to dig beneath the facts and stop arguing about facts and get to the essence of what's happening for people. We're also going to take a look at energy and emotions, as again, I think good project managers are able to tell what's happening for people and help to shift them into the performance zone and be able to read where they're at and adjust their communications and their coaching accordingly. One of the newer trends in stakeholder engagement is the idea of getting everybody in the room to do some planning. While this may not be feasible all the time, the idea of having people who represent all stakeholders as part of some planning meetings or somehow bringing their input in really helps project managers anticipate where there could be resistance and also where there's some opportunities. Project managers often deal with situations that polarize people or get people kind of in opposition to one another. So we're going to look at a tool that helps manage that in a little bit more effective way, and how you can actually tailor your communications to get people more on board and see where their common ground is. We'll also take a look at generational differences. In this particular cartoon, the person on the left is probably a baby boomer who's assuming that loyalty from employees, looks like loyalty to the company. And what we're learning about younger generations, and in fact all of us need to learn this, is that we actually need to be loyal to ourselves and our own careers. So that's a very different orientation in the workplace. We'll be working with a case study throughout the 3 days, and we'll spend a little bit of time looking at negotiation and using that case study as a way to do that. And in particular here, to shift from looking at the positions that people occupy to being creative about what's possible by understanding people's interests. The last day of the course is going to look at presentation skills, and you're actually going to engage in some presentations. And we are really going to try and break the PowerPoint habit and look at how to engage people in meaningful ways. One of the things we're going to focus on when it comes to presentations is how visually people are oriented. And we're really going to make the most of looking at visuals as opposed to text-based kinds of messages and presentations. The way we're going to do that is actually by doing pecha kucha, which what I'm doing right now is an example of pecha kucha. In its original form, it's 20 slides, 20 seconds each. We're going to be playing around with that format a little bit, but at the end of the day, what we want to do is snappy kinds of presentations that really engage people in sound bites, because that's what we need these days. The final afternoon, we're going to take a look at coaching, because that has the most promise for project managers in terms of bringing out the best in people, bringing out possibilities and solutions. And given how many things can go wrong in projects, having a toolkit around coaching is really going to help us. The other thing that coaching helps us do is it gets people oriented towards what's possible, so some positive images as opposed to getting stuck, which is on the right-hand side here in sort of downward spiral thinking and negative kinds of things. Positive images do inspire action, and that's what coaches get people to do. So that's a highlight of the 3-day program. I'm really excited to be teaching this course as it brings together a number of ideas for me. If you want to find out more about the whole certificate, go to unbc.ca and look for Master's Certificate in Project Management.